I'm Troy Kirby with a quick look at the 2022 Washington State legislative session. The Senate Housing and Local Government Committee heard public testimony on Senate Bill 5818, which would promote housing construction by amending the state's Growth Management Act.
My view is, we spent a fair amount of energy around regulating landlords and tenants, and I certainly supported 5160. I think it's not a secret that I get nervous about the question of how far we go there in terms of regulations. And I have this bill to address the housing crisis. We do have a housing crisis and housing access crisis. I address it here through decreasing barriers to building housing supply.
And we do believe that this bill is building on and enhancing the work that the legislature has done on permit reform and reducing the barriers to more affordable and diverse housing stock throughout Washington.
I think we're all aware that we've got a housing crisis, and we're aware that there are many items that are beyond the control of government to be able to affect. Things like labor costs and availability, materials costs, and others. But the issue of permitting costs is one that is very much within the control of government.
Those permit delays or those delays on construction, while still providing protection for our communities and moving forward with what we've decided we want to plan for. There's many times cheap appeals just delay projects.
We have a housing crisis and we're trying to address that. With all of that said, we do have concerns with Section 6 and we're working on those to remove that. And also we're working closely with AWC and other proponents on perfecting some of the detailed language to make sure that a housing element can be appealed and threading a needle on what types of non-project actions can to facilitate housing.
With that support, we want to share our concern about one aspect of the bill involving modifications to rule-based categorical exemptions to SEPA. As worded, it appears WashDOT would lose the ability to review many development proposals proactively in the early stages, limiting our ability to assess multimodal impacts to the state transportation system.
The Senate Business, Financial Services, and Trade Committee heard public testimony on Senate Bill 5541, which would exempt newspapers from the business and occupation tax.
Mentioned in their analysis that we are on the right track by lowering the B&O rate down to 0.35 from 0.48, but they were also very blunt in saying there's still been hundreds of newspapers that have, or a lot of newspapers have closed, even though we had reduced the rate. And if we were serious about helping the industry, we would have to consider if we could be more aggressive than what we had already done.
It's a changing world. I think it's what's going on. And it's hard to, it's very thin paper now down here in Vancouver.
I have spent the last 3 or 4 years working on projects that I never would have envisioned when I started this job in terms of trying to find endowments for and other public funding mechanisms for reporters and for news efforts at newspapers across the state. I have heard about losses at newspapers that are staggering to me, that mid-sized dailies in the state, one in particular that I know of, lost $1 million in 2019 pre-pandemic and is being subsidized by the money of the family that owns it. I know that subsidy is occurring across the state.
Thank you for watching the 2022 Washington State legislative session.